How we doing, everybody? Welcome back to In Hindsight, episode 19 for your July 18th edition, for your Sunday edition. Man, it is unbelievable how crazy fast this month has been going, man. It's funny because how bad the winter was out here. You know, I was looking forward to better weather. And it doesn't really even feel like it's really been summertime. You know, a lot of times it's been raining every day, and I've said this quite a few times, but it's been raining every day. It's either raining or it's really humid out, but I don't know. I just feel like the summer's just flown by. Like, it doesn't really feel like it's really been ultimately summertime. I don't know. But it's insanity how fast things have gone already, but I'm glad because I love fall. Fall is going to be right around the corner, and football is starting up next month. Now, training camp starts end of this month, but very soon. It's going to be a very exciting time. I can't wait. But anyway, yes, this is like I mentioned last week on last week's show. We were having to adjust things. I had family come in, which was great to see them. They left earlier today, so I had to move the show from Saturday, and I had to do Sunday, Monday. So we'll be back here Monday as well. But anyway, hope you guys have had a good weekend or enjoying your Sunday. On this show, as you can kind of see in the thumbnail, for the Pittsburgh Sports edition of In Hindsight, we're going to be talking about why Big Ben is primed for a good season this year, why he's going to prove the doubters wrong. We're going to be talking about the Pirates, what's been going on in their week this week. They're actually live right now playing the Mets. We'll get into that. They demoted Rodolfo Castro, who a lot of fans, including myself, really wish he was able to stay put up here, but he'll be back again eventually, but they optioned him down. We'll talk about maybe his future going forward. And the NHL expansion draft is officially 3 days away. It's on July 21st. The Penguins already have their list of guys who they're protecting, who they're not protecting. We'll get into that. And they also made a pretty big trade yesterday, and we'll also talk about that. But all that and much more right here, guys, for episode 19 of In Hindsight. We'll see you after the intro. Oh, man, you know, what I'm going to be jumping into right away is the Big Ben discussion. But it's honestly crazy, man, because when I look back at all the years that Big Ben has been the quarterback, but really when I look back all the years, really when I kind of want to say after like their Super Bowl against Green Bay. So I kind of want to say, like, really that 2011 season. Like, really ever since then, okay? And it's gotten worse each year, I feel. But I feel like Big Ben, it's insane the amount of hate he gets. I don't know how anybody can sit there and say that he doesn't get that much hate. The amount of hate and disregards and doubt this man gets is unbelievable. I mean, even back in 2018, 17, 16, 15, 14. I mean, as I've said, yes, all those years really since 2011, and it just kind of would keep getting more. But I feel like personally, Big Ben has always been an underappreciated, underrated quarterback. You know, back when, you know, because you had Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, you really had those four guys, right? And Big Ben was more so that fifth guy. And rightfully so. I mean, all four of those quarterbacks, I mean, are above Big Ben for sure. But Big Ben was really kind of that fifth guy, aside from them. for the most part. And even when you look at other guys like a Rivers, a Manning, maybe even a little bit of a Matt Ryan at times, I feel like Big Ben, heck, even Flacco that one year when people were saying he's a top 5 quarterback after his one Super Bowl playoff run. But I feel like just Big Ben has always kind of been an under-the-radar guy, because he was with those other 4 quarterbacks. And I never really feel like Big Ben really ever necessarily gets the respect he deserves. It's always something where something's always his fault. The run game isn't working, it's Big Ben's fault. You know what I mean? Oh, the play calling's bad, oh, it's Big Ben's fault. And especially in particular the last few years, the Steelers, AB and Bell, oh, it's Big Ben's fault because he's been a bad leader, a bad teammate. What? Bad leader, bad teammate? Heck you talking about? Brown and Bell were 2 of the biggest clown shows in the league. Brown has finally got his head on straight 4 years later, 5 years later, well, really since 2016, so like several years later. Went from team to team, had to sit out a little bit, had to sit out pretty much a season. Bell, ever since he left, absolute disaster. His career was over since the day he left. So, I can go on and on about example after example why Big Ben's always been the bad guy and things. And I'm not saying Big Ben is completely innocent on things. I mean, he's had his problems over the years on the field and off the field and stuff like that. Sure. But really, in particular, these last several years has been absolutely ridiculous. Big Ben is one of the best quarterbacks of this era. He's one of the best quarterbacks that we've all been able to watch and witness. And I just don't understand, because when you look at, if you put things into perspective with certain things that Big Ben's getting blamed for, and maybe you put that, let's say you replace Ben with Patrick Mahomes or a Brady or a Russell Wilson or a Peyton, a Drew, probably not Aaron. Aaron kind of gets, criticism too. But if you replace it with those guys, scotch-free. These guys are golden childs, golden boys. Nothing can ever go wrong. They can't ever do any wrong. And don't get me wrong, I really love all those quarterbacks. They're absolutely great to watch and watching now. But it's just annoying, the continual Ben narrative that, the media likes to pour out there. It's ridiculous. I just don't understand why you just can't appreciate what the guy does, and why, you're all about appreciating greatness and, being able to watch these guys. Well, why can't you do that with Ben? Why is it when something goes wrong with this team, it's always his fault? And that's not the case at all. At all. And going back to last season, a lot of people want to pinpoint that season on him alone. And yeah, because it's his fault that his offensive line can't block. It's his fault every single play call is his fault. It's his fault that they can't run for a yard. It's his fault his receivers have led the league in drop passes. Yeah, that's his fault, though. Yeah, okay. Big Ben had his problems last year, but to blame that whole season last year and collapse on him is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm going to explain why I think Big Ben is primed this season to have a good year, even a better year than what he had last year. And I'm not saying this because I'm a homer. I've been saying this since day one. Yes, all you listeners and viewers know that I am a Steeler fan, but just because I am doesn't make me necessarily biased. Sure, can we all be biased at times for our sport teams? Of course, everybody has a bias to an extent. But when I talk Pittsburgh sports, and when I talk, really sports in general, I say what needs to be said. You know what I mean? Like, I'll say what I see. I'll say what I think. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how much I like a team or not. I'm just going to say my opinion on it. And if you guys agree with it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. You guys might call me an idiot. I don't really care. But nonetheless, why I think Big Ben is going to have a good season this year. I'm not going to sit here and say Big Ben's going to be a top 10 quarterback. Obviously, he's 39 this season, and obviously when quarterbacks age, of course their skill set diminishes. They can't do certain things they used to do. We know that. But I'm not going to sit here and say that Big Ben is totally done and he's toast and there's no hope for him. When you look at Big Ben last year, really throughout, up from the beginning of the season to probably the middle half of the year, he was definitely one of the odds-on favorite of winning the MVP. And the level he was playing at was amazing and was great, right? But once we kind of saw that production kind of go down, and once we really kind of started to see the Steelers' offense not really, really struggle and really start really being one-dimensional, teams were knowing how to play the Steelers. The Steelers were, winning games offensively and, being from their offensive mindset and everything. A lot of it was underneath passes. A lot of it was, safe routes, things like that. They played a conservative offense. That's really what they did. And Big Ben, wanted to get the ball out quick. I don't really think he wanted to try to take the least amount of hits he could. But once the season went on, teams started to play that, and teams really started to play that and wanted Ben to start throwing the ball down the field. And, and that's how the offense really started to shift and really started to not be productive at all. And it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch every week. It really started getting hard to watch. But when you look at Big Ben's stats from last year, okay, I'm not always, whenever I talk about certain things in sports, I'm not a guy that always goes to the stats. I don't always go to the book on things. I like to judge things based off how I see them as well. But when you talk things and you use statistics, statistics are there for a reason too. But if you're just going to look at the main things, I think, and I think a lot of people, when they talk about Big Ben's season last year, I think a lot of people don't put things necessarily in the right perspective, okay? This man missed the whole 2019 season pretty much because of a season-ending elbow injury that he had to have surgery on, reconstructive surgery, and he came back last year at 38 and was still, statistically, one of the best quarterbacks. When I say statistically, when you look at the main stats, I'm not talking about the deep metrics, you know what I'm saying, and things like that. We can get into that. But when you look at just from an overall standpoint and kind of certain plays he made, you know what I mean, and getting the ball in the end zone, he was one of the best for sure. Through 33 touchdowns and had 10 interceptions, when you look at that alone, yes, that's good. That's good. And I think for the position he was in, that's awesome. That's awesome. And as I said, we know Big Ben isn't what he used to be. He's not. And that's why last year I think we saw a lot of his game change as well, and why he was trying to adjust his game, because he wasn't able to do certain things that he was able to do before, right? But when, his passer rating, his completion rating, okay, that's fine, where I think you were happy to see that, where it was at. Now, if we're going to go into more of the deeper ratings like yards per attempt, if we're going to go more into a QBR, if you like QBR, there's some people that don't really like to put a lot of stock into that. There's some people that value that. Whatever your view is on that. Yes, when you look at more of those advanced metrics, he was more at the bottom. And I'm not sitting here saying Big Ben was one of the best quarterbacks last year. But I don't think he was as bad as what some people think he was. Big Ben wasn't one of the worst quarterbacks in the league last year. If you're gonna say a guy like that, who threw 33 touchdowns, 10 picks, would have had over 4,000 yards, if it wasn't for the drop passes his receivers had. He would have had more touchdowns too, by the way. I mean, I don't know what to tell you at that point. From that standpoint, yeah, he was definitely one of the better ones. And I still think Big Ben definitely, for where he was at in his career and coming off of the injury he did, I think that he had a nice season. I do. Now, for Big Ben's standards, he's definitely had better seasons for sure. But being 38 and coming off a serious injury like that, there were a lot of people before the season started that were doubting that he was going to be bad, that the Steelers weren't going to be a playoff team, that they were going to be worse than what they were in 2019. And it kind of sounds to what people are saying now. So go ahead, keep doubting, by the way. You're wrong every year anyway. But there are a lot of people doubting him. And he played the whole season. I think for what he did, I think is very positive, from the quarterback spot. At this point in time, I view Ben, he's not a top 10 quarterback anymore. Like I said, that's the way it goes when you get older as a quarterback. But I still think he has a little gas left in the tank. I think he showed last year he can still play. And I still think he's a serviceable quarterback. And, a lot of people want to say he doesn't have the arm strength. The arm wasn't the problem last year. If you look, the arm strength was there. He was actually overthrowing guys, and it was just his accuracy that wasn't there on the deep ball, because Big Ben he's been one of the best deep ball throwers throughout his career, for sure. And especially when the Steelers became more of a pass-heavy and more of an offensive team in the 2010s, mid-2010s, Big Ben's deep ball was maybe the best in the league during that span. But I think last year what was hurting him, I think it was more of a mechanical lower body kind of thing. And when you watch that Cowboys game when he got hurt, I believe it was his knee. I think that's what was, because that was like that middle part of the season, right? So I think that was something I think that really kind of derailed him as the year went on, was more that lower body, not really being able to maybe get that strength from the lower body. It's been said he has arthritis in his knees as well. So obviously as you age and the sport environment he's in, that's not going to help. But nonetheless, I think people don't really view the circumstances he was in last year with coming off the injury he did. He didn't have a good offensive line at all. And when he's throwing the ball 60 plus times, yes, he's bound to, not have the success that maybe he wants. And when you can't run the football 1 yard and get a first down, I don't know what to tell you at that point. So I think when people want to, people who want to say Ben was bad last year, first of all, you're honestly kind of wrong. I'm not saying that Big Ben was great in different aspects or anything like that, but if you're saying he was ass or trash, I don't know what to tell you at that point. You're just wrong on that. And I think numbers and really what he was able to accomplish throughout the year speaks for itself. But people don't put in perspective those things, everything else around him, from the drop passes to the bad offensive line and the bad pass protection to the bad running game to receivers dropping the ball. I don't think they put those things in perspective at all a lot of times. And as a quarterback, you need at least decent pass protection to, be able to have at least enough time to target your receiver, where you're getting the ball to step up into your throw. You need that. And Big Ben didn't have a lot of that last year. So I think for all the circumstances and everything involved, yeah, I think that he had a serviceable, and I think he had, a nice season. I do. Now, if this was Big Ben who was 100% healthy, obviously it would have been a very disappointing season, not up to par at all on Big Ben, and it would have been definitely bizarre because Big Ben's obviously a deep ball guy. He's been a deep ball guy throughout his career. We know this guy's always racking up yards. He's always more at the top of the categories on a lot of things, but obviously as he's older and he's had to adjust his game, he's not that way anymore. He's had to change his game a little bit, and we saw that last year. But for everything that has happened, what was around him, and, being 38, coming off that type of injury, I think he had a fine season. I really did. Now, when you're a quarterback and you're throwing it 50, 60 times a game, you're bound for failure. And that's what they wanted to change this year, was and this, as I'm getting into why I think Big Ben is primed for a good season, maybe even better than last year. The Steelers went out, they drafted Najee Harris, which pretty much every Steeler fan wanted. I wanted that. Now, there's people out there that say they don't understand the pick. They should have went offensive line. Well, here's the thing. Offensive line, okay, the offensive lineman that they could have got at that time didn't even go in the first round. They went in the second round. Okay, number one. Number two, you're getting a guy like a Najee Harris because if you don't draft a guy like that, you're not going to get any running back that's going to be a day one starting caliber, and you're going to be stuck with Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland as your starters next season. Najee Harris is a game-changing running back. Yes, you need a good offensive line for a running back to have a lot of success in the league. But because of how deep the offensive line class was, that's why it was okay in my eyes, why they didn't go offensive line. Now, I was thinking in the second round this year, they were going to take maybe the Creed Humphrey, Landon Dickerson, Tevin Jenkins, maybe if he fell, which he didn't. Maybe one of the tackles. But they went with Pat Freiermuth, the tight end from Penn State. Now, when they drafted him, I wasn't really sure why they went that route. But when you look at, again, you got to put these things in perspective here. Eric Ebron cannot block. Eric Ebron is a receiver in a tight end body in a tight end position. Pat Freiermuth is a guy who is a good blocker. And when you look at Matt Canada now, the new Steelers offensive coordinator, what they're going to be doing, it's going to be a different offense, a different scheme. Pat Freiermuth is going to be involved a lot in running plays, for sure. And if you can get a guy like that who the Steelers can view as the future of that tight end spot, he was the second best tight end in the draft behind Kyle Pitts. Now, if you want to talk about all-around tight end, really the embodiment of a tight end, he was definitely the best guy in the draft. Best tight end in the draft based off of that alone. So the Steelers went with that because, okay, they're looking at the future with that position, but they like everything that this guy offers the table, and he's going to be heavily involved in the running game for sure in this new Matt Canada offense. Then the third round, they went with Kendrick Green, the center, who they liked a lot, which a lot of people liked that pick, myself included. But I think it was because it was such a deep offensive line class and what the Steelers were trying to do. I think that's why you did not see a tackle go in the first or second round. And, the people that don't understand the pick, okay, but you have to understand it was such a deep class. You got to understand what Freiermuth is going to bring to the table. You got to understand why they went with Najee Harris. And if you still don't agree with the pick, that's fine. But I think the majority like the pick for Najee Harris. Now, as they did that because they didn't have those things last year. Now, the offensive line going into the season is still a big question mark. I don't really see it being worse than it was last year. It's completely overhauled. You look at your left tackle, it's going to be Okorafor most likely, who was on the team last year. He was okay. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. He's still young. I still think he definitely has time to develop more. We'll see how he does at left tackle. Kevin Dotson was definitely the best offensive lineman last year as a rookie, and he didn't even play every snap either. Kendrick Green, starting center, very athletic, physical center, which they needed. Trey Turner coming in at right guard. David Castro, we know, was released. He has health issues. He might retire. So they brought in Trey Turner, who's 28, who's a five-time Pro Bowler, who was a great player with the Panthers. He was with the Chargers last year, battled injuries. He's 100% healthy. So he should be a key piece for them on the offensive line. And hopefully maybe, I don't necessarily want to say an upgrade over to Castro, because DeCastro was phenomenal here in Pittsburgh, man. He really was. But that's the thing. If DeCastro's not very healthy, then yes, Trey Turner is probably most likely an upgrade over that. And then you got Zach Banner coming off an ACL injury at the other tackle spot, which he's a question mark. So I think, right now, yes, if you're going to say, yes, the offensive line isn't good, but I don't see this offensive line being worse than it was last year. I think you're younger, you're more physical now. I think it will help a lot. You got rid of that dead weight with Villanueva and Matt Filer, who were god-awful. Marquise Pouncey was declining by the year, and it sucks he's gone. And it's not like he's old, like he's 30, 31, so it sucks he's gone. But he was declining as a center. He was. DeCastro wasn't healthy, and Okorafor, like I said, he was kind of, average. But that's what the Steelers are doing. We talked about the issues last year. why that derailed the end of the season. We talked about why, Big Ben wasn't all to blame on the collapse that was last season. So now they're kind of correcting those wrongs, as I said, with Harris, bringing Freiermuth in, who can offer a lot in the blocking and running game as well, Kendrick Green, and they overhauled that offensive line. And I think it's just a big question mark right now, and we have to sit and wait and see how it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be worse than last year, because I don't think you can get worse than last year. But it's younger, it's more physical, and I think that's a promising step forward. We'll see, but that should definitely help Big Ben out, because this season, okay, if you don't have Big Ben throw, you can't have Big Ben throw 50 times a game. I don't even think you should have him throw over 40 times a game. Big Ben needs a guy like a Najee Harris who can take the load off of him a little bit. And I think implementing those things I just said the Steelers implement in the offseason will help Big Ben be that much more effective. I think what we're going to see, like I said, we're having a new offense this year. Matt Canada's the new offensive coordinator. Najee Harris is involved. A younger offensive line. I think those things will help Big Ben be more effective. Like I said, I'm not saying Big Ben's going to be top 10 quarterback or anything like that, but I honestly think he is primed. Just those reasons alone, I think will help him be primed for a better season this year. I think will help him be more effective. I think will help the offense not be as predictable as it was. I think other things too. Big Ben he pretty much has the same receiving group around him. And it's definitely, I think, one of the better receiving cores in the league, one of the better ones. Juju's not a slouch. Claypool's getting, he had a great rookie year. Deontay, we know he had his drop issues, but he's a very elusive yards after the catch kind of receiver as well. He's a good player. Eric Ebron, he has hand issues too. But he can, they have to get him more involved too in the middle of the field, I think. Ray McCloud, from what I've saw, that he's going to get some more time in the slot possibly. He's a good speed guy. They're going to do a lot of pre-snap motion things. I'm sure play action should be more involved. But nonetheless, just those things alone, I think, will be primed to help Big Ben be successful. Because what we saw last year, his arm's not the problem. He needs to be more accurate, okay? It was reported that he's very strict right now on his diet, on losing weight, on, things like that. And we've heard over the last few years that Big Ben's in great shape and stuff like that. But this is great. This is what you want, because Big Ben, he wants to keep playing. He wants to keep, expanding his career a little bit more. So Big Ben, he does come in if he is a little bit lighter. Okay, that's great. If he if he's built a little bit more, okay, that's great. We know Big Ben over the years, he's been, there's times where he's come in where he's looked good. There's times where he's come in maybe where, he didn't really, maybe he didn't really do much in the offseason. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of been all over the place with him. But he's Big Ben for a reason. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. And clearly, I don't know why these people want to put him on the Tom Brady level. Who is? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why they want to put him on this pedestal to Tom Brady, really. What Big Ben's been doing over the years from his offseason regime clearly has been fine, because he's a freaking first ballot Hall of Famer. But at this stage in his career, yes, it is good to get a little bit lighter. You know what I mean? And, maybe if you do the extra steps in regards of, health or watching what you eat or dieting, okay, that's great. That's great. I've never doubted Big Ben, man. I've never doubted Big Ben, and people who want to, that's fine. But I think, you look at what they did in the offseason to correct those wrongs from last year, that's going to make Big Ben all that much more effective. His arm's not a problem. He's able to get the ball to the receivers. He's able to get the ball down the field. He's just got to get better as the accuracy. As long as his lower body mechanics are healthy, like his knees and stuff like that, and he's able to maybe move around a little bit better than what he did last year, that's great. I think the other thing to take into consideration is, as we mentioned, that what he came off of last year, his first year back off that elbow surgery. Okay, so now this is really the full season, this upcoming full season, without, seeing what that elbow's like, and having any kind of concern or, it's had a season under it. Now this is really the full season here in regards of, kind of like moving forward and kind of getting back to that normalcy, right? So I think that's one thing as well to put in perspective is that, okay, this is the second year with the elbow, after the elbow surgery. And I think that's also another thing where, we saw what it was last year with that elbow. Okay, now it has an off season, an off season, where it's completely healed up. Has an off season where it can be even stronger, depending how Ben, whatever Ben's doing with that. And an off season to really kind of, work on things where they weren't really up to par last year with accuracy or deep ball, things like that. You kind of have the full landscape on what it was like last year coming off of that, and you can see and do what you can look and see what you need to do to improve off of that, right? And what you can get better off that, because now you kind of see what you can do, what you can't do, you know what I mean? And that arm's 100% healthy, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a year off that post-surgery, and now you kind of have that full off season where it's like, okay, our arm is, back to where it's been. So I think that's another thing to put into consideration, is being able to look at the whole landscape of last year, what you were able to do, what you weren't able to do, and how you can improve on top of that. But like I said, Big Ben, he wasn't really, I'm not going to say he wasn't great last year, but he was serviceable, and he was, I thought he had a fine season. And now he has a full offseason after that elbow. He can, like I said, look back, see the grand scale of things on what he can do better. He's getting lighter. You know what I mean? He's trying to add that longevity to his career. The Steelers added things for him to take that pressure off of him. Because now if he's throwing the ball 30, 35 times a game, maybe even less than 30 times a game now, that's going to make Big Ben that much more effective as a player. Big Ben can get the ball to the receivers. He can still move a little bit, but hopefully his mobility is a little bit better this year, And that's the thing. If Ben can really just kind of get that deep ball a little bit more accurate, that's great. Because he can throw the ball down the field. The people saying that his arm's done, his arm's not done. It was his accuracy was off, and as the season went on, his lower body was kind of, banged up. So I think for all those reasons that we talked about, I think those are really key things into why I see Big Ben having a better year than he did last year. Now he doesn't have all the pressure on him. He has a different offensive line. He finally has a running back that can run. He's shedding weight. He's getting lighter, which should help his lower body a little bit. New offensive coordinator, new offensive system, new offensive scheme. How many play calls were so predictive last year? I think all those things involved are primed to get him better. And I think that's even going to help the receivers too. Because you're not going to have an offense where it's so pass heavy and the defense is expecting pass. You know what I mean? So now you can really integrate different things, integrate some play action. You're obviously going to be doing some pre-snap motion. You know what I mean? You actually have a running game that can help open up the offense, help open up the field a little bit more. Never doubted Big Ben, man, and I don't think anybody should either. So those that are, that's fine. It's fine if you disagree with me on why I think Big Ben's primed for a good season this year. If you think he's done, that's fine too. Let me know in the comments what you think about Big Ben this year. Let me know how you feel about him going forward. Now, I don't know if this is going to be his last season or not, but I still think that he has some left in the tank. I do. And I think he's very motivated to show what he can do, that he can still win games. Well, we all know he can, but I still think that, he's definitely motivated. And he's definitely motivated based off of how last season ended. And, I just don't understand really the doubt people are doubting the Steelers as a whole this year. I really don't get that. But nonetheless, I think Big Ben, I'm not doubting him. I think that he's going to be better. I think he's going to be more efficient. I think he's going to be more effective than what he was last year as a quarterback. simply for all the things they brought in this offseason and correcting the issues that were last year. Simply for those reasons. Now, what I'm going to do before the season starts, something I was planning on doing, but I'm not doing it right now. After the preseason, I'm going to be going over, I'm going to be making my own predictions, and I'm going to be going game by game. I'm not going to just be one of these guys where you tell me a team, I'm like, yeah, I see maybe 10, 11 wins. No, dude, no. I'm going to take team by team, and we're going to go through their schedule, and we're going to explain why we think their record might be the way it will, why they might lose the games they will, why they might win the games they will. But we're going to do that after the preseason because, it's better when you really can kind of see what teams are looking like heading into this week 1. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm very confident about the Steelers this year. I'm not saying as a Steeler fan, but I'm confident about them. I think that they're going to have a successful season. There's a lot of people that aren't really that high on them this year, and there's a good amount of people that think that they are under the radar guys and that they'll make a run this year in some way. But I don't doubt Mike Tomlin. I don't doubt Big Ben. I don't doubt that defense. I like what they have offensively. We'll see what happens. It'll be a fun season. Let's transition into the Pirates here. So the Pirates are live right now playing the New York Mets. And last time I looked, it was 6-0. Now, you guys will have to go back and watch this if you haven't seen it yet. But something crazy happened. The Pirates are up 3-0. Kevin Newman was up, and he had pretty much a swinging bunt, right? So I thought the ball at first was foul, but the thing is, the ball, it traveled, it hit the third baseline, and it scored 3 Pirates runs, and the Mets thought it was foul. They tossed the ball to the side, no one went to go get it, and it scored 3 runs. Manager got ejected, everything. But the Pirates are up 6-0 over the first place Mets, and man, the Mets are a complete disaster right now. DeGrom's injured, Lindor's injured. They're losing the series to the Pirates. They lost last series to the Pirates before the All-Star break. I don't know how they're going to keep up first place right now. But anyway, this is I believe this is what is this? Is this the third game in the Mets? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I believe this is the third game against the Mets. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But nonetheless, Pirates are up 6-0. Last time I looked, the score might be different right now. By the time you guys watch this, the game might be over. By the time we upload and all that stuff like that. But anyway, regarding the Pirates, Rodolfo Castro got sent back down to Double-A. Now, Rodolfo Castro, he was brought up for a very short period of time earlier on in the season, and he only had a few at-bats, but then he was brought back up before the All-Star break, and, pretty much every hit he had was like a home run. And he only had, I believe, 15 plate appearances, 3-4 homers. I think he had like 6 RBIs. I mean, it was great to see, and he's been raking in Double-A. He's only 22, and I hated to see that he got sent back down. But the thing is, if Rodolfo Castro isn't going to be getting at bats up here, then yes, you do send him back down. But it's like, why are we playing Kevin Newman? Why can't you play Castro at short? He plays second and third. He's played some shortstop at some point, so I don't know why you can't play him. But if Adam Frazier, whenever he gets traded, hopefully Rodolfo Castro, I'd like to see him called back up and played at second base on an everyday basis, see what you got. Because here's the thing. There's no rule that every minor league guy has to play through Triple-A. If a guy is playing well at a Double-A level, and maybe you call him up and he's showing promise at the majors, keep him up. But if you're not going to play him, yes, send him back down to Double-A. Let him keep getting at bats, until you can call him back up and get more use for him. But he was very impressive for the short period of time he was up here for. And he's just another guy in the Pirates minor league system who has been showing a lot of promise. After the Pirates draft, we went over that last week. After the Pirates draft, I believe they went into second on Fangraphs for top farm systems. Second-ranked farm system ready. the thing with the Pirates is I'm excited just in the sense that there's a lot of promise in the farm system, and I'm excited to see these guys eventually come up here, and especially the ones that might be primed to come up next year, like O'Neal Cruz, Roansy Contreras, Travis Swaggerty, Miguel Yajure. I'm excited for those guys. Possibly Rodolfo Castro. And then you got guys as well that are still a little bit away, like a Nick Gonzalez, first-round pick last year. Quinn Priester, first-round pick a couple years ago. Carmen Majinski, first-round pick a couple years ago. Jared Jones, Liever Paguero, Brennan Malone, as they just drafted Henry Davis. The list goes on. There's a lot of promising guys that they have in single A and double A, and there's a few guys in triple A that, might be able to make an impact, but as a Pirate fan, it is exciting because when you look when Neil Huntington left, they had a bottom of the barrel farm system, and what Ben Cherington has done since he came in 2019 has absolutely been great. This is his third year as GM of the team, and he's gotten this team to the second ranked farm system. Very impressive. Now, the thing that a lot of fans fear is the fact that obviously Bob Nutting's still involved. He's still the owner, and it's just ultimately how much will ultimately change because he's still there. I really don't know. But what needs to change is once these guys are done with arbitration, you can't just trade these guys away. It's time to start extending guys. It's time to start spending money. Once these guys progress, once they are done with arbitration or close to being done with arbitration, it's time to extend these guys. So guys like a Reynolds, when he's starting to come up, you extend. Brian Hayes, you extend. These younger guys in your system, you extend. Because once you start doing that, then, you're going to start winning a lot of the fans back, because fans are seeing you're trying to keep the band together. You're trying to rebuild this culture here. But that's a wait and see. That might be wishful thinking. But Ben Cherington's doing his job. But Henry Davis officially signed today. He signed his rookie contract. I believe he's going to be heading into Bradenton, probably Greensboro, I'm sure, low A ball, I'm assuming, fairly soon. But we'll wait and see. I mean, the Pirates had a phenomenal draft. Overwhelmingly, it said that, what they've done was very impressive in the draft. One of maybe the best draft in the majors this year. We'll see what happens. That's really the main thing with them is seeing if these guys can stay long term. But there's promise, but then you got that other side to it, right? But anyway, the Pirates have just been creaming up on the Mets. They've been absolutely destroying them. They won the series, like I said, against the All-Star break. They won last night off of Jacob Stallings' grand slam, which was really cool. And then they also won the night before that. So they're looking to win this series against the Mets here. But one guy that's been absolutely crazy is John Nogowski, man. I mean, they got him for nothing from the Cardinals. He wasn't doing anything with the Cardinals. He comes here and the dude's raking. He's hitting close to 400. He's getting on base. He's getting hits every single night. Hasn't hit a home run yet as a Pirate, but he's doing absolutely phenomenal stuff there. And Colin Moran's out at first. So now when Colin Moran comes back, Nogowski, I think, can play some outfield. So instead of keeping Polanco in there, maybe get Nogowski out there. When Moran comes back, get Nogowski in outfield, because you don't want to stop playing time from him. So he's definitely winning a lot of the fans' hearts over right now. And I like to see him be a guy that the Pirates retain going into next season, because he's just been very impressive. And I think going into next year, he's a guy that you can have there as obviously a backup first baseman behind Moran, but he's a guy that you can use as well in the outfield. He can be, a good guy that gets a lot of plate appearances next year as well, and is more of a veteran guy. He's 28, so I don't know. It's just really cool to kind of watch him play. But really, the thing we're waiting with the Pirates, what they're going to do with the trade deadline. Trade deadline's end of this month, and Frazier's expected to go. Obviously, Richard Rodriguez could be a guy that could go. That could get traded. Who else is there? There's also another name, Jacob Stallings. I mean, I don't know. I don't really see Stallings getting moved. I don't really see there being much of a market out there for him. I I mean, I think those are really kind of the two key pieces in regards to trading a Rodriguez and Frazier. Tyler Anderson, I don't really know. I mean, if a team wants a lefty guy at the bottom of the rotation, maybe. I don't know. I really see Frazier and Rodriguez being the two guys. But we'll wait and see. That's still up in the air. What's not up in the air, though, is Jared McCann of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Jared McCann is officially gone as a Penguin. He got traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs for I believe, a mid-round pick. I believe they got a second-round pick. They got a second-round pick for Jared McCann, and they got Philip Hallander back, who I believe they took a few years ago. The Penguins took a few years ago in the second round. Now, Philip Hallander, I believe he's 21. I'm not really quite familiar with what he's been doing. But it sucks that Jared McCann's gone. When I saw this, I'm like, why? Now, the only thing I can see the Penguins making this move is because the expansion draft is in 3 days, and they didn't want to leave Jared McCann unprotected because there would have been a high possibility he was going to go and they wanted to get something for him. But I don't understand why you wouldn't protect a guy like that. What Jared McCann did this year, what he brought on the power play, what he's brought defensively, I mean, he's played on the PK. He was great on the first power play unit. Why are you going to trade a guy like that? Why wouldn't you protect a guy like that over Jeff Carter? Jeff Carter's 36. Yes, Jeff Carter was great for the Penguins when they acquired him. But I don't see Seattle being really interested in taking a 36-year-old center to build their franchise. So now you trade McCann, and now you leave the possibility of Aston Reese or Brandon Tanev getting selected in the expansion draft. I wish this was Jari that got traded yesterday. Why are you protecting him? I don't understand why you're even bringing a guy like that back. I'm not sitting here saying Jari's one of the worst goalies in the league. I mean, he was an all-star a couple years ago. You know, he had good moments throughout the year, but, you know, when you're hitting close, I mean, with this Crosby, Letang, Malkin era is coming close to an end here, you know, you got to go out and go balls to the wall here. So I still don't really get the Jared McCann thing. I just don't know why you wouldn't protect him. I don't know. But who they are protecting is Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, Rust, Jeff Carter, Kapanen, and defensively, Letang, Dumoulin, Matheson, and Jari. Marino isn't available in the expansion draft, so anybody that might be questioning if Marino... No, nothing's going to happen to Marino. But Jason Zucker could be a guy maybe they take. I could see that. But I think Aston Reese is going to be the guy that's going to get taken. I really do. I think Aston Reese is a good guy on both ends of the ice. He had a really good season this year. Now, Brandon Tanev could go too. I kind of hope not. I really like him a lot. I think he brings a great presence on the ice. But I think Aston Reese is probably most likely going to be the guy that gets taken. But I just don't understand why you wouldn't protect Jared McCann. You know? I don't really get that at all. So we're going to see a little bit of a different team next year. I think defensively, Letang, Dumoulin's still there. Matheson will be there. CeCe's a free agent. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. Pettersson, I don't know if he's going to get taken or not. There's a possibility. Pierre-Olivier Joseph will probably be ready to come up at some point next year. Sam Poland, who was their first-round pick, a few years ago, he might be ready to go at some point next year, playing a wing. But I just don't get it. When you're looking at their lines right now, you got Gensel, Crosby, Rust, Zucker, Malkin, Kapanen, Jeff Carter, now with McCann gone. Probably, Lafferty, Angelo, Bluger, Tanev, Aston Reese. That's it right now. Goodrow, I think Goodrow's a free agent. Zohorna, I believe, is a free agent. I don't think he's under contract. Could be wrong on that. But when you're looking at that, now you take away, so McCann's taken away, okay? You add Hallander in that. I don't know where he's going to play at. And then you have Angelo? Really? Anthony Angelo? No. I don't see that. I still see the Penguins at least making some kind of move because you have to. Now that you lost McCann, you brought in Hallander. Like I said, I don't know where they're going to plug him in at. I really have no idea. If they lose Tanev or Aston Reese, that fourth line was great. Now one of them are probably going to be gone. You got to do something to create some room and make a move somewhere because you have to strengthen that. Gensel, Crosby, Russ, Malkin, Kapanen, that's great. Okay, if Zucker's still there, okay, I don't mind Zucker. He was kind of disappointing last year, but he showed a lot of good things when he came here in 2019. So I'm assuming, okay, you can stick with him at least maybe for a little bit to start the year. See how he does. You got Bluger. You'll have either Aston-Reese or Tanev there. But now you at least got to you'll have Hallander in there, but, Carter at one of the center spots. But now you got to do something in regards to bringing another wing guy to fill up that lineup and strengthen that, because Angelo and Lafferty are not the go. They're not. Poland you can put in there, but I don't know if he's going to be good to go by the start of the year. So you got to do something. But a lot of fans hated the move. They didn't understand it. I still don't really understand why they just couldn't have protected Jared McCann. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, I like Ron Hextall. I like Brian Burke and who they brought in. Those guys they brought in to, kind of run this team. And it's hard for me not to see them do something in this offseason to strengthen that. But we'll see. Time will tell. But I'm excited for the expansion draft, and I'm excited to see the Seattle Kraken team and how they're going to pan out. I'm really excited. And I'm excited to, to see how they do this year. But I don't know, man. I don't know. That might be something we talk about during the week when the expansion draft happens. That might be something we come on here and we talk about. We go over the Seattle Kraken team, things of that kind of nature. But it's frustrating. I think a lot of fans are frustrated that Jared McCann's gone because he's done a lot of good things here, and it sucks he's gone because he was great player for the Penguins. He was great, and I think he did a lot on both sides of the ice, and I think you could really count on him in anything. That's going to do it here on episode 19, folks, for your Pittsburgh Sports edition of In HEINTZ SIGHT. We'll be back here tomorrow. We'll be talking all things around the league, NBA playoffs, everything else going on. But nonetheless, like I said, I was hoping to do something during the week. But again, like I said, right now, I wasn't able to. But that's still what I'm trying to do. So just kind of keep an eye out on the channel. If you guys want to follow me, Facebook, In HEINTZ SIGHT, Twitter, Nate_Heinz, Instagram, Nathan_Heinz, to keep up with the channel. Things we might be posting. I'm hoping to be back here sometime this week and maybe talk about the expansion draft or if anything else happens in the week of sports. I'm trying to implement something during the week. I know I've been saying this last couple weeks. I haven't been able to. But like I said, as training camp once really football starts up, we're going to be switching around the schedule. So I'll be keeping you guys up to date on that. I'm still trying to figure out, days and times and things like that. That would be good. But anyway, that's a wrap here, folks. And, this is good bit I wanted to dive into. It's not like it was a bunch of topics, but just really kind of discussion I wanted to go more detail into. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys here tomorrow, Monday. Like I said, talking all things sports around the league. We'll see what's going on. We'll see if anything breaks or anything happens tomorrow as well. If there's anything else interesting to talk about that I'm going to add on to, what we will. But nonetheless, guys, enjoy your weekend. And we got Money in the Bank tonight as well. If you're a wrestling fan, Money in the Bank tonight. We'll see what happens on Money in the Bank. But nonetheless, guys, enjoy your Sunday. Hopefully you have a good start to your week Monday. And we'll see you back tomorrow. All right, guys. Talk to you later.